I'm here with André Davidson, who is running for place 3 of the Plano City Council, and she's in a runoff election. The early voting is going on now. Thank you, André.
Glad to be here.
Why don't you just take a minute, if you will, and introduce yourself to the readers of the Observer and say just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm André Davidson, and I'm running for Plano City Council. But also, I've lived in the community for over 30 years, been involved, heavily involved for the last 20 years. Really believe that my background and experience uniquely qualifies me to serve on City Council. And I had never been interested in running for political office, but when this seat became open unexpectedly, I looked at the situation. The timing was such that I thought, this is really the right time for me, and I think I can bring the experience, the training, the leadership, proven leadership, to be effective on council, considering the challenges that the council will face.
Well, thank you. It's certainly been a heck of a campaign, hasn't it?
Yes.
Let's talk about the future of Plano. Plano is world famous for the way it planned its growth in the 60s and 70s, and how it built itself up as a community from the cotton fields. But it's generally considered a mature city now, and some of its infrastructure is aging. Some of the malls are aging. How can you on the City Council help position Plano to take part in any future prosperity?
And that's one of the subjects, honestly, Bill, that's very near and dear to my heart, having been here so long and seen how the community has grown. And one of the things that I believe is so imperative is that we keep that fabric of our community, so we maintain excellence in Plano. I think that we can do that as a maturing city, that we can do that by looking at properties that we have and considering other uses that might involve some planning and zoning changes, but we can look at commercial corners that may not be revitalized. How do we go about making them attractive again? Obviously, we have to work with the property owners to do that, but I think looking for new options, new ways to do things. Obviously, we need to really consider and continue that aggressive economic development growth, looking for new businesses. That is an avenue of continued tax revenue increases that's going to be imperative for us moving forward. Things like Pizza Hut moving forward, utilizing and maximizing the impact we can have with the Economic Development Fund that was developed in 2007.
Thank you very much. My next questions are going to do with DART and people getting around. It's become kind of a hot button issue in Plano, where Plano residents who've been paying into DART for many, many years have trouble availing themselves of the train because they can't park in the parking lots. Yeah. What are your thoughts about that whole issue, and about really, I guess, what the real solution is expanding the reach of DART?
Well, I think it's one of the things we really need to focus on. And I've looked at some options if there are ways to consider asking non-residents for some sort of parking payments, and we're considering that. Also, I think the key is going to be, though, we're going to have to find other collaborative ways to ask the other cities to contribute financially. I don't think there is any way that we're going to get the cities to come up with the 1-cent sales tax like we did all those years. And I understand the frustration of the public. But DART has been a very good system. It just needs to continue. And we have got to get some sort of financial input from these surrounding cities for us to expand, to move not only further north, but to move east and west also, so that we can develop this transportation system that would be comparative to other major cities, because we certainly do need it.
Thank you. Last question, next to last question. As Plano grew, it developed kind of a reputation as being kind of monochromatic and being somewhat of a cultural desert. It's obviously no longer monochromatic. It's become a very diverse city, and it's beginning. Some might take exception with that, but it's definitely picking up its own culture. What, as part of the city council, what do you see as your role, or as the city's role in developing a culture that is Plano?
Well, I think one of the things we're going to see is, as you mentioned, we are expanding from a cultural diversity standpoint significantly. Some of the initiatives that have taken place, like the Multicultural Outreach Roundtables, the MCOR group, have been very successful and brought in much more of the international representation. I think that's important. I think we have a very strong contingency of international representation coming into this community, and it's important that we continue to develop cultural avenues for those expressions. There are things that happen, such as Asia Fest or the International Festival. Obviously, one of the venues that we've talked about that would offer great expansion from cultural arts perspective is the Arts of Collin County. I believe that's a good project. Whether or not this is the exact time to build it, I think I will have to, as any new city council person would do, we'll have to look at all of the numbers. How much will it cost now versus how much it will cost then? How much our cost to the city will change as our population changes? All of those actual numbers need to be considered to make a decision. But I believe that actual cultural arts is a very important part of this community, and a very large percentage of our residents actually take an interest and participate in the arts, and the arts in their own right actually bring us some economic development as a result.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Last question. I think I told you it was going to be the first question, which has got to do with some of the older parts of the community. The Douglas community, for example, is for a generation or two. There's been a cooperation between that community and the city in developing it, in preserving it, and in helping, again, a cultural identity. There are some issues going on now with a proposed transfer of management of the community center itself. What are your thoughts on that?
I know the city is looking at that transfer to the Boys and Girls Club for them to possibly manage and run the Douglas community. They already run the after-school program. I also understand that is a very the part of the fabric of that community, and it means a great deal to the residents. Their senior groups use it, not just the kids in the afternoon. They feel very strongly that that's a part of their home, their residence, part of their community. So I think it's going to be an issue that has to be carefully looked at. Obviously, the numbers are important, and the feelings of the community. I think we're going to have to be sure that if the facility is managed by Boys and Girls Club or any other entity, that the needs of the community are foremost in consideration. The programs that they need, the programs that they're used to, that it continues to meet the needs of all the age groups within that Douglas community.
Great. Thank you very much. And I wish we're completely and utterly out of time, but thank you so much for talking to us.
You're quite welcome.